Alright, today we're going to take a look at Chapter 6, Section 2, which deals with solving systems of equations using substitution. So before we were working on solving them with graphing. So you had to graph two lines and figure out where they intersect or if they intersect at all. So today we're going to work on a way to solve these problems without having to go through the graphing. So this is called substitution. So here's a quick definition. Substitution is a method of finding the exact solution to a system of equations. Here's an overview. We're going to go through this in more detail here by working through some examples, but a quick overview is solve for a variable, pick your favorite, x or y. Once you get that definition for x, let's say, plug in the rest into the other equation's x. Once you do that, figure out what y is. So you'd only have the one variable left, right? Once you get y equals a number, you've got half the solution. Use that number to go back and solve in the original equation. Plug that number in for y, see what you get for x. Your final solution would be an ordered pair. That's going to be a point on the graph, only we won't have to graph it. There'd be a point on the graph that is our solution. That's where the lines would cross. So let's go through an example here. Let's move me over here. So using these equations, it says use substitution to solve. So pick your favorite, x or y, and we need to solve for one of the variables. Well, check this out. This one's already solved for for y. Let's just use this. So this is our definition for y. So we're going to take this chunk and plug it in for y here. So negative 4x plus 12, plug that in for y. We're going to rewrite that so it says 2x plus all of this equals 2. 2x plus all of this equals 2. Now, do math. Figure out what x is. Get x on a side by itself. X equals 5. So they did a little bit of, they dropped the parentheses, combined like terms. Once they simplified, x equals 5. Now that you have x equals 5, plug this into your favorite equation. Is this one your favorite or is this one? Either one. Plug 5 in for x, see what you get for y. So they plugged 5 into the top equation and they got y equals negative 8. So their answer, 5 was x, negative 8 was y, so their answer is 5 comma negative 8. Then you're done. Let's look at one that you can try. Let's move me over here. So use substitution to solve this system of equations. Pause right here, see what you can do. Hit play when you're ready to check your work. When I went through and did this, I figured if this was my definition, got a little crazy with the circling here, I figured y is this stuff. So I used this definition of y and I plugged it into this second equation here. So I put 3x plus 4 times this equals 11. So when I worked through this, this is what I got. Distribute, simplify this part. 4 times 2x gives me 8x. Get x on the side by itself. I got x equals 1. That allowed me to rule out these two choices. But now that you have x equals 1, we need to plug this back into one of the equations. I chose the first one. X is 1, so it's 2 times x, or 2 times 1. That's 2. So y is 2. That's my answer. 1 comma 2. Let's go through another example. It gets a little trickier if they don't already have one of the variables on a side by itself. So this says use substitution to solve. So the first step here would be get either x or y on a side by itself. In this equation, the book chose to get this one, x, on a side by itself because the coefficient is 1. That kind of saves us a little work. So we would have to get rid of the minus 2y. So they did plus 2y, and now they have a definition for x. Now that you've got this definition, plug this in for x here. So 3 times this stuff plus 5y equals 24. 3 times that guy plus 5y equals 24. Do math. We need some Jeopardy music. Okay, so we got y equals 3. Let me know if you've got questions on the work that they did here, but y equals 3. Now that you have that, we can plug in this y equals 3 into your favorite equation from the beginning. Pick your favorite. What's your favorite? So we had y equals 3. Plug in y equals 3 for one of those. The book chose this equation. They plugged in 3 for y, and they got x equals 3. Oh, that's funny, 3 and 3. So the solution is 3, 3. Let's keep going. So here's another one. Pause right here, see what you can do. Hit play when you're ready to check your answer. All right, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and show you what I did. So all this, I did this. So I did, what did I did? I got x. I got y on the side by itself. I guess I chose this equation here. Yes, so I decided to add y to both sides first. And then I had to add 12 to get rid of the 12. Now I've got a definition for y. Do you see how I have y equals this stuff? Now that I have a definition for y, plug this definition in for this equation. 2 times that stuff. So 2 times that stuff, 3x plus 12. Into that whole equation, I did some distribution, did some combining like terms, get x on the side by itself. I got negative 2. Now that I have negative 2, I could plug this into either equation. Pick your favorite. My favorite was the top one. So I used this top equation and I plugged in negative 2 for x, and I got y equals 6. So I had A for my answer. Let me know if you have questions on this. This next one I did, let me move me up here. So use substitution to solve. In this case, they're telling us it could have no solution or infinitely many. So let's see what this looks like. Once we did this process, looks like book chose this one and they were getting y on a side by itself. So a quick subtract x on both sides to get to this definition of y. Okay, now that we have a definition of y, plug in this definition into this equation here. Plug it in for y. When they did that, they had 2x plus 2 times definition equals 8. So they got this. Now we got to do some simplifying, right? So we did some simplifying. Now we have negative 4 equals 8. That is not true. Since this is a false statement, this means there are no solutions. I'm guessing that this system of equations, if you put it on a graph, it should be parallel, so those lines will never cross. Since they don't cross, there's no solution. We can't say where they do cross. So let's look at it. Check your progress one. Let's see what you can do. Pause right here. See what you can do. Hint, I'm going to bet the answer is either no solution or infinitely many. When you're ready, hit play. Alrighty, here's what I'm doing. I chose this equation and I'm getting y on a side by itself. So when I did that, I got this funky thing here. Once I got y on a side by itself and I got my definition, I plugged it in for the y in the first equation. So I plugged it in for this. So 3x minus 2 times this stuff equals 3. So once I worked through this, blah, 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 blah. I ended up with 0 equals 0. Sorry about that. 0 equals 0, and that is a true statement. It works. It's a yes. So that means that we have infinitely many solutions. Check this out. I do not have that x equals 0 and y equals 0. If that was the case, A would be our answer. Instead, we have 0 equals 0, which is true. Again, so infinitely many. What that would mean is if we were graphing these lines would actually be overlapping. It would be on the exact same line for both. There's no intersection because every point is the same on both lines. Okay. Fun fact, if you got y on a side by itself for both equations, they should be equal. Okay. Let's look at a word problem. So this one says nature centers. So we've got this much for yearly membership, $625 for single admission. We know that they sold a total of 50 yearly memberships and single admissions for a total of $660.50. Here's what we've got. Total sold, x plus y equals 50. Total sales is $35.25 for yearly, $625 for single, and we've got our total cost. So when you've got these two sets of equations, we can do the same process that we've been doing. So looks like we were getting x on a side by itself. We got our definition for x. Plug that in for x in the second equation and do math. Let's solve for y. Once we solve for y, blah, 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 y equals 38. Now let's think back to our original equation. Our original equation said x plus y gives you 50. Well, we now know that y is 38, right? So what's x? X plus y equals 50, so x is 12. Now that we've got that, you've got your answer. So you've got y equals 38, 12 equals x. So 12 yearly, 38 single. Admissions, we are done. How about this one? You test this out, see what you can do. It's a little tricky because it's talking about percentages. Here's a hint. Use 0.25 for the concentrations. Pause right here, see what you can do, and hit play when you're ready to see my work for this problem. Alright, here, I'm going to show you what I did. I'm going to move me out of the way. So we've got the one solution plus the other gives us 10, because he said we need 10 milliliters. Mikhail needs 10 milliliters total. So I figured first solution plus second solution gives me 10. And then the first concentration was 10%, so I wrote in 0.1. The second concentration was 40%, so I put 0.4. And then the last concentration, it was supposed to be 25%, so I put 0.25. However, come to think of it, I'm pretty sure you could do this by just adding in a 10 and a 4 and a 25. Or sorry, 10, 40, and a 25 without doing decimals. So you can test that out and see if you get the same answer. When I was working through these two equations, I decided to get x on the side by itself. So here we go, x on the side by itself, yes. Okay, here's my definition of x. I plugged in this definition in for x here, and I then solved for y. Here, do math. Let me know if you got questions. Y equals 5. Well, so 5 goes here, so that means 5 of the 40%, right? So I put 5 milliliters of 40%. Okay, hint, if you know the total is 10 milliliters and we have 5 milliliters of 40%, you can probably guess how many milliliters of the first one. In case we don't know that, here's what we're going to do. Plug y equals 5 into either equation. I'm going to choose the nice little blue one at the top. So I'm going to plug in x plus my new definition of y, which is 5. X plus 5 equals 10. Do math, minus 5 on both sides. X equals 5. So if x is here, that means x is 5 milliliters of the 10% solution, right? So 5 milliliters of 10%, 5 milliliters of the 40%. So that means answer C. Whew, that was a toughie. Okay, here is your homework. Please let me know if you have questions. Email anytime and join that Google Meet if you've got questions, the online office Google Meet. Okay, good luck.